Welcome to Growing Your Firm, brought to you by Jetpack Workflow. We're here to help firms unlock the secrets to help you reach your goals faster. And now, here's your host, founder and CEO of Jetpack Workflow, David Cristello.
Hey everybody, David Cristello here, founder and CEO of Jetpack Workflow and host of Growing Your Firm podcast. Today's guest is Stephanie Mack. She lives in Vermont and runs a fully remote accounting practice. Account Mobility started out with bookkeeping, QuickBooks consulting, and conversions 8 years ago. She has since added tax advisory and tax prep in the past 2 years to grow her practice with the advent of many CPAs and EAs retiring in the next decade. So we're going to unpack how she's positioning it for growth, why tax prep. We're going to talk about maybe why she's taking a different approach than maybe just M&A for a lot of folks that are retiring, and so much more. But first, Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Thanks, David. Thanks for having me. This is a fun topic. I can't wait to discuss it with you. It's been first and foremost for me for the past couple of years. Yeah, I've been going to a lot of accounting conferences and enjoy them thoroughly, geeky enough as it seems. But I definitely see just in my local area, people retiring, clients coming to me, CPAs dying. And it's been very obvious in the past 12 months that this truth in the trend that they're just aging out, right? Retiring. So knowing this and looking at the issue, I have really paid attention to that and how I can position my practice to accommodate, help our local folks, and also grow as a practice.
And so instead of maybe taking what I'll call the traditional route, which we talked a little bit about on the show, which is like as owners are retiring, you're going to purchase the asset. It's obviously a very hard asset to purchase because certainly small practices are so owner dependent. So what is your mindset as firms and EAs, as they reach retirement? Are you going to maybe not purchase the asset, but have a client referral agreement? Or how are you thinking about maybe using this trend to the advantage of how you set up the practice?
So it's really tough to be able to go in and just buy a whole practice. We've looked at that with a local gal, basically a few towns up the road from me. And she definitely is a paper practice. You know, folks still come in and drop off boxes of documents. And she does scan them in. She does have some clients who are, paper, I guess you'd say e-friendly. So there's a big difference between, the business side of taxes and just the personal side of taxes. So what we've been finding is we've been able to accommodate tax practices by offering to help out and work with their business clients, your Schedule E's and C's on 1040s and or your partnerships or your S or C corps. But all of the personal taxes, all those folks have been, I don't want to say babied, but they're only touched like once or twice a year. So there's really not been a big push to automate them or make them be more e-friendly. So there's a lot of time involved with trying to transition those 1040 clients that are just, W-2 wage earners and those sort of things. And with TurboTax kind of really pushing their business side, we've had to pay a lot more attention to the business clients in general. So we're finding that overall, the different CPAs that we worked at have said, hey, we'd like to just at least have our clients taken care of. One practice just flat out told me, we're not interested in necessarily selling. We just want to make sure it's a really good transition and they're not coming back to us afterward. So what we really decided to draw a line in the sand and say, okay, we're only going to take on business clients for the near future because many of them are much more attuned to how to work with portals, how to work with Q&A situations on Google Drive documents or how to upload documents, and they're much more friendly to that work environment. So it's been a much easier transition on any clients that are just business clients. So we've had to say no to just the strict 1040 clients. That's made it easier for us in order to transition and work with business clients in general.
So for those business clients, so a firm comes to you and they say, look, we're not really interested in selling, but we know we're a couple years out or maybe 1 year out from sunsetting the practice. We really just want them to be taken care of. They get that referring firm has zero financial interest in that. It is just about creating a good bridge for those clients. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah. One firm was a larger firm and they were downsizing. They're still going to stay in business for a few years and they wanted to get rid of about 100 of their business clients, but they literally said they weren't interested in selling. They were interested in having a good transition, that the client wasn't going to come back to them because they had done a blanket sale of a bunch of clients maybe 5 years before, like an early downsizing. And it didn't go very well, they had basically said. And I was listening really closely to what they were saying and trying to understand their predicament, that they've provided such a good value service for so many years. They're more interested in passing on value than receiving money, right? And so that one was pretty interesting to me. And just another CPA just wanted to completely be done with 700 clients all in one shot, but only like 130 maybe 80 to 130, I forget the number exactly, were business clients. All the rest are straight up 1040s. And, we had to say, hey, we're only interested in the business ones. Unfortunately, at this time, we just can't transition that kind of volume
Yeah.
on the personal side.
So how are you gaining the trust of these firm owners for them to come to you with these prized relationships? And not only that, saying, we're not going to sell them, but we want them to have them in a great landing spot. And sometimes it was a poor history of trying to sell them off. And other times, maybe their model as a firm is hyper profitable. They pull distributions. They're all set for retirement. And it's almost anything they would sell from an asset perspective would have an earn out. They would be kind of have these golden handcuffs for 3 to 5 years. But how are you building the trust for them to say, hey, can you help me with this?
That's an interesting question because, we're new, quote unquote, new to tax. So they're supposedly looking for people who have all this longevity in tax. And as the longevity ages out, retires, dies, you're going to be having to choose new. So there's that understanding that A, yes, we understand that, but B, we have a whole team, right? So there's the team concept. It's not just one set of eyeballs, which is helpful. The other is leveraging software. I've found, just growing my practice since the beginning, software is fantastic. And I personally really depend on software, whether it be a portal-based software like you guys have in Jetpack, or which is huge. It's a game changer right there for clients, but also tax advisory. We put our, stock in working with tax advisory first with clients to really make sure that we're, have a breadth of knowledge and as to sort of help to bridge that gap between depth of knowledge with the client. You have a brand new client, you don't really know about all of their history, all their ins and outs, what you did for them 10 years ago. But suddenly with any kind of tax advisory software, you suddenly gain that knowledge really fast because you're having the client fill out these questionnaires that bring all of it together and provide a tax advisory. So all of a sudden the trust is built with the client by doing that tax advisory process, and you're gaining breadth of knowledge. And then suddenly it's like the aha light goes on for the client. They go, oh, this is what they're talking about when they're talking about this proactive approach to tax, not just a retroactive after the year is done. So I try to explain all that when new clients come on and say, we're trying to do things differently for a reason. Like we're not just trying to make this difficult for you, but we're trying to get you to understand about proactive tax advisory versus just retroactive tax filing or tax prep. So we developed some different business models that we put the ability for folks who really maybe tax advisory was always at a price that was way out of their range. So we put tax advisory and set it up as a subscription. And by setting that up as a subscription year round, clients are more willing to reach out and talk to you about it. It's budgeted for them. It's not just, whaps them right at the end of the tax season. So we put tax advisory on a subscription and any percentage of their savings on a subscription, and we roll in the cost of the tax prep. So
Got it.
So to put the emphasis for them on how valuable the tax advisory is versus just the filling out of the documents once the year is done.
You mentioned the team structure is pretty unique. Can you unpack that for the audience? How have you set up your team today?
Sure. The what I'm trying to get is mm, I guess a more of a pyramid effect. I think that what I've seen with, different tax practices, they have, a small pyramid. We're trying to get a really wide based pyramid in the sense that we have a lot more team members on the ground doing the legwork. So I have an offshore team that does all of the bookkeeping, and I also have another offshore team that does all of the assistance to the tax prep. And I myself do the tax advisory. So I don't know how many people out there agree with me, but I feel like between bookkeeping and tax, 70 to 80% of the work is babysitting. So that's what we sort of term it, is the babysitting. It's get that document to us. We need that document. We need this document. We need you to e-sign this, or we need you to do these things. So I'm using the automation tools in client portals in with my team. Like, hey, set this up as reminders so we don't have to be babysitting as much. If the automation goes out and says, hey, remember to do this, remember to do that, as a function of both the bookkeeping for the business client and as a function of the tax for the client. And as we can, as human labor is just short, we can make use of as much automation as possible in getting their bookkeeping and or tax done. So that's played a large role in building our practice so that we can be the first layer is the automation, the widest component. Then we have the offshore team and my onshore team working together to quote unquote babysit clients, make sure those things get done, that the tool sent out as a reminder to upload, right? Then we have the actual reviewing and editing and possibly, back and forth with the client on Q&A for bookkeeping and or tax. Then there's that top tier, right? Is just either myself with tax advisory, and then once the plan is developed, handing it over to the CPA and to the tax prep team, saying, okay, make sure you incorporate these things into their plan and into their tax prep. Of course, the client has, their legwork and homework to do before the end of the year as far as implementation. But then CPA then comes in and is reviewing the work and then finalization, sending it out. And so we're trying to limit the need for the quote unquote CPA or EA position to have to do a lot of the legwork, because we can layer that with automation tools and then tax prep assisting team and then, advisory and then final filing.
I love that. I love thinking of it as a pyramid. So you kind of start with the tools that are most scalable and you work your way up. You mentioned moving things to a subscription, so it's more cost effective for your clients. Where do your subscription packages start at from a tax advisory, tax prep perspective?
So for smaller business clients, like, around like a Schedule C, Schedule E, 1040 filer, we started at $1,500 because a lot of them just have maybe one real estate thing going on. They might be a W-2, a small business on the side. And then whatever, that's their base fee around,
Per,
so year round.
per year, per
per
month?
per year, right? So we just divide that out over 12 months. We round it to the nearest whole dollar, but approximately 1,500. And then whatever the tax advisory plan we come up with, it might take a month or two after they sign, after we get going on their base fee, after they sign and we do the actual advisory plan. Maybe there's another, let's just say, $2,400 in savings. I'm just using, silly numbers at the moment, but that additional $200 a month, we would then add on to their $1,500. So once the percentage, because we charge 10%, above the on their whole plan in general, whatever that percentage is on their tax savings, we charge 10% of that. So then we'll add that on with the onto their subscription fee, so that they've paid for their quote unquote 2023 year within 12 months. And then of course, next year comes up, we just do the same thing, revise on their plan, charge them the base fee, and then add on any difference. And if there are no differences per se, then it's going to be the same fee as last year. We just charge it year round. When tax prep time comes, they've already paid essentially for the year on subscription, and we just file. So we wanted to roll out a model that was subscription based. They don't have any worry about communicating that they're going to get charged by, an hourly rate to, just to talk to our tax prep. team, and they're not. So additionally, I come from a business owner's perspective. I sort of went back to school to get my accounting degree. So I spent years struggling with the CPA and trying to understand like what was going on back in the early days of my husband's business. And always was so frustrated by the size of the tax bill. And my husband literally, I remember him calling and saying, stop calling CPA, just don't make another phone call to them. It's like, yeah, but it's gotta be right. So coming from that business owner perspective, I never wanted my clients to feel like they couldn't call and ask a question. So I wanted to make sure it was accommodating to business owners that way. And usually subscriptions feel much more safe to clients.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, something magical that seems to be going on in your practice is you have these owners that are coming to you trying to figure out how to transition their business clients. So how are you finding all these owners that are coming to you saying, "Hey, can you help? We'd love to transition out some of our clients." Where are these leads, if
Some
you
of
will,
them,
coming from?
yeah. Some of them are bookkeeping clients that we've had for a while. Literally, I think 2 different CPAs died locally this year, and they just kind of was like, "Can you do our tax return?" We were able to put it on extension ourselves, but, can you just do it? They're just desperate, right?
You were the
So some of
bookkeeper, so
them,
you were doing the bookkeeping for these CPA
yes.
firms. I see.
Yes. So we are sort of more in the nature of we are still supporting all the tax EAs and CPAs out there that we've always supported, and that was our normal business model. But we've seen so many of our clients where the CPA just literally said, "Hey, I'm just no longer doing your particular type of tax returns, or I'm scaling down, and you need to go find somebody else." So we've had bookkeeping clients that have come to us and just said, we were told we needed to go elsewhere, or, hey, my CPA died and we just need somebody else to do it. Those have been a couple of the scenarios this year. Other small businesses that we've been doing bookkeeping for started another small business. So they were looking for, CPA to do their work. So some are internal. A large component of my referrals have been through a networking group called BNI. I've been a member of Business Networking International since I started in business and get literally 50% of my referrals through that. So that's just been legwork, right? I do just a lot of my own marketing through network marketing. And then there's also client referrals and friend referrals. But in this process, we are not taking away or trying to take away any of the CPAs that are currently happily working with our bookkeeping clients. We're more so providing that sort of open door opportunity for all the fallout, all of the extras, all of the extra. I guess I can make it akin to the whole way QuickBooks Online said they, would never do tax or they would never do bookkeeping live. And then suddenly one day I was like, oh my God, they're literally competing against me. But I have had one client in 8 years go to bookkeeping live and then come back, or vice versa. So it really hasn't affected my business at all. So I see that opening the door to providing tax advisory and tax prep has not diminished my friends and colleagues who are CPAs and EAs. It's only alleviating their stress that somebody else is sort of stepping up to the plate.
Has it been challenging transitioning clients from other firms, to a new pricing model? Have you met a lot of price resistance, or not so much because you're kind of setting up why you're different? Have you had any challenges on the client transition front?
Early on, I was such a big adopter of the whole, e-format, just understanding that this is just the wave of the future and you just got to ride that tidal wave. You're going to be afraid or you might have fun on your surfboard, but either way, it's just the wave. And so because I adopted it early, I have literally trained, or as part of my free discovery call with clients, especially the past 3 years, not so much the past year or two, but kind of years 2 through 5 of my business. I showed clients my client portal and said, hey, this is how we do business. If you are totally against it, you're just not the client for us, because we have to work on this portal. It's imperative that our team communicate and be able to see where things are at. So if this is not your bag or you're not willing to learn, I'm happy to train and I'm happy to take on clients who are willing to learn. But if that's not you, then it's best you go find somebody else who can help you out. And I have turned away probably a half dozen clients, or maybe at least like one a year kind of thing. Most all of them are so desperate for help. They're like, whatever you want us to do, just show us how to do it. We'll do it. So I have not had in the past 2 years any non-adopters of the technology. I think maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, yes, they were like, oh, I don't want to do it. It scares me. But everybody's transitioning so fast. No one has even batted an eye at this point.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Well, Stephanie, I'm really excited about where you're taking the firm. Like we talked about in the pre-interview, I think a lot of folks are trying to figure out kind of creative structures on acquisition, but you seem to be approaching from a different perspective, which these transactions can be very complicated. Sometimes the owner who's selling has already had some scar tissue that they don't want to revisit in terms of sale. And so I think the way you've kind of navigated the ecosystem to be really fascinating. If somebody wants to reach out, say thank you for coming on, learn a little bit more about your journey, maybe have a question, maybe they need to partner with you, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
I am at Account Mobility on Facebook business page. I tend to hover there the most. That's probably the best place. Or Stephanie at Account Mobility. Shoot me an email. Going through them all the time. Those are probably the 2 best places to reach out.
I love it. And if you enjoyed today's interview, you can always check out jetpackworkflow.com/blog. That's jetpackworkflow.com/blog. We'll do a full write-up of how Stephanie is approaching her unique model for growth. If you really enjoyed today's interview, leave a review. It helps us get the word out. And if Stephanie said something that really ignited a new idea, share it with a fellow firm owner. I know that's the best way to say thank you for spending the time. Stephanie, it's been a real treat. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, David. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining Growing Your Firm, the podcast series for global, small, and medium-sized businesses ready to scale and increase profits. You can check out more podcasts by following the links in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening. At Jetpack Workflow, we're all about maximizing returns for accounting firms and CPAs. Check out more podcasts on growing your firm and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.